Grüezi and welcome to the first episode of the GZA Live Talk series. Thanks for taking the time to watch. The goal of this new format is to showcase the Greater Zurich Area as a business and technology location from a different perspective. Two things before we start. First, to the right of the video window, there's a field where you can type your questions. We will try to answer some of them during the talk. Second, this live broadcast is supported by Seer Vision, a startup from Zurich that offers AI-assisted camera operations. Thanks a lot for the support. Greater Zurich is where world-class technology meets Swiss reliability. Financial technologies are emblematic of this. Therefore, I am delighted to welcome the representative of a successful Fintech startup to the show, Patric Ammann, Chief Operating Officer of Neon from Zurich. Hi, Patric, and how are you today?
Hi, Reto. Very good. Thanks a lot for having me here. Very much looking forward to the discussion.
It's a pleasure for us. Would you like to start by showing me your mobile phone and what financial applications you have on it?
Sure.
And explain maybe why you have these?
Good question. Actually, funny that you ask. Kind of have two groups already on my phone. Number one, traditional banks. Of course, I use still an account at UBS, Credit Suisse, and Twint, which is a Swiss payment app. And then I have a bunch of kind of international and Swiss fintechs, that the ones you would know, N26, Revolut, TransferWise, Monzo, some Swiss ones like Banque Claire, like Zack, Yapil, which entered the market some time ago, Credit Suisse since yesterday with their new product offering. Why I have them, in my role as product officer, had to follow the market, see what the trends are, how people or how other companies design their apps, what features are implemented, what the trends are, how navigation works, and for that it's important to monitor what they do.
And for those who don't know the Neon app yet, what's it all about?
It's quite simple. What you get with Neon is a Swiss banking account. You get a MasterCard. Both of it you get for free. And when you pay with your card abroad, you have no FX markups, kind of the Revolut pricing that we have. And on top of that, we believe we have a very simple product. It's very easy to navigate, very easy to understand for clients. We're very transparent in what we do and very transparent in terms of the pricing. And we are very approachable in terms of you can give us a call, you can send us an email, you can discuss with us on social media, and that's something that people actually value a lot, especially when it comes to banking and trusting your money to a fintech company.
Okay. Do you have maybe an example of a feature that you implemented based on a customer feedback?
A lot. One, maybe not a feature, but a dramatic change of our strategy was basically to cut down the FX markup costs that we initially had on our product by the beginning of the year to zero. Mm-hmm. So after a big customer survey, we decided that this is something that clients really ask for, to kind of take the step forward and offer this much more attractive pricing. Product-wise, maybe a fun but still interesting example is many clients demand us to export their account statements in a format they can use in their own budgeting or financial software. So we implemented very quickly an export, so they can basically load the information up into their systems.
Okay. It sounds very attractive for customers, obviously. On the other hand, I kind of find it difficult to understand how you make money. Everything has to be free or at least very, very cheap. Mm-hmm. How is it possible to be profitable in this difficult environment?
Good question. There's two sides to it. You have revenues and you have costs. On the revenue side, number one is every time our card is used, we get a small percentage back from MasterCard, the so-called interchange, which is standard in the market. So the more clients use our card, the better for us. Secondly, we try to look out for very interesting and attractive product offerings in the market by other companies in the investment space, insurance space, in the credit space, and integrate them into our ecosystem. And by that, and by promoting those products to our clients, we of course get a small provision back. So these are kind of the two pillars. And then of course in the future there is more opportunity. You can launch additional card products, like N26 Revolut and stuff like that. And of course, on the cost side, very important to have as much automated as possible so you can really grow quickly without having to grow your organization likewise. So we really try to keep the headcount at the level we are and improve ourselves as much as possible to still be able to service more and more clients the next few months and years.
More and more is a good word, because you just onboarded your 40,000 customer. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Where does Neon stand on its growth path?
From my perspective, we're still at the very beginning. I mean, 40,000 is a great success, especially keeping in mind that we only launched 1.5 years ago. By end of this year, we're very comfortable. We will reach 50,000 clients, and end of next year, we will be above 100,000. And we have even greater ambitions. So it's a very good momentum we're in. It's going very well, but I think from a growth perspective, we're still starting to really grow strongly.
Greater ambitions, does that mean internationalization as well?
Not for now. Greater ambitions in the terms of having more and more customers in Switzerland, convincing more customers that there is better and alternative solutions compared to traditional banks. And I think there's still a huge potential in the Swiss market. But of course, in the long run, as soon as the market is saturated in a sense, we would look at internationalization as well.
Okay. Yeah. We are now in the middle of a pandemic. How does COVID-19 impact your growth or your plans?
I mean, it's a dramatic topic, but fortunately for us, it did not have a very negative business impact. Actually, to the contrary, it was kind of positive in a way that people are looking more and more for digital solutions. They don't want to walk into a branch physically to open up a bank account, but they want to do it digitally 24/7. And that's something that you get with our product. So it kind of helped us to distribute our product in the market, despite people being in lockdown at home.
Okay. Are there maybe any experiences or insight that you personally gained from this difficult period? You as a person and as a manager?
Yes, I mean, we are a very remote company already, in the sense that we work in different locations and people are spread, but still working in lockdown for 2 to 3 months was still heavy, because you would not see each other physically. So it was very interesting to see, and positive to see, how people still find a way to keep the atmosphere and the culture and the spirit up, and to live through hard times, and when they come back to the office after the last lockdown, to still engage and keep basically the relationship they had before the lockdown. So that was, I believe, a very positive experience.
One person from the audience just asked a very interesting questions. Do you have negative interest rates on assets in the app?
Good question. We do not, up to a certain amount. If you have more than 500,000 at our account, you have negative interest rates. But at the moment, I think there's not one client that would actually have hit that mark. Okay,
not yet, maybe. Let's dive into the world of digital banks, of challenger banks, or however you want to call them. What are the major trends in the banking industries that companies like Neon, but also international players respond to?
I mean, it's kind of a buzzword that has been around for a long time, but I would still say it's digitalization. It's people looking for products that are paperless, that are available 24/7, that they can get themselves and can open up and subscribe for themselves without having to go through some lengthy processes, and also products that are very transparent in the way what you get and what you pay for. So I believe, especially in the banking industry, there is a trend also towards clients better understanding what they're paying for and where there are kind of hidden prices. And this whole movement of transparency and all these fintechs coming up with innovative solutions at much better and more attractive pricing is really shaping the industry. And then banks really have to think about what value they're giving their clients for the price they are demanding for it.
Okay. And how do established players respond to you and other companies entering the market, and often with rather aggressive strategies?
The good thing is they are now responding. I think 2 to 3 years ago, there was, from my perspective, actually not even that much response. I think the first big movement was when the Swiss banks allowed to offer Samsung, Google, and Apple Pay in the market. That was a dramatic, I believe, change compared to the solution they had built themselves. And secondly, you can see it everywhere. They are starting to offer also online onboardings for account openings. They are also changing their pricing. You have a large bank like Credit Suisse just yesterday actually launching their own mobile offering with different pricing, a new mobile application, also kind of different way they try to communicate with clients. So you can see from product perspective, process perspective, and also the way they communicate and pricing perspective actually throughout the range. They are starting to move, and I think that's a very good sign for the industry.
Okay, now the big ones become more and more like the new ones, the challenger banks. So what can you do to stay ahead of the competition?
Innovate faster, develop faster, and I think also listen to clients' needs and being able to implement whatever they demand in a faster way. I think traditional and larger banks still have difficulties in bringing stuff very quickly to the market, simply because they have very complex and large infrastructure. Smaller companies like us are able to change direction quickly and quickly respond to changes in the market, and that's something that will be relevant for us to stay ahead and really fulfill all the clients' needs.
Okay. Another interesting question from the audience. What does transparency mean for you in banking, and does it mean when it comes to privacy?
Very good question. Transparency has two aspects. The first one is about pricing. I think that's a very important element. Banking is not that tangible for clients. You have, you pay something abroad, you have hidden markup fees, or you have fees at all. You have base fees. You have specific fees for example, if you demand a tax account at the end of the year. So there's different ways how banks can get money from their customers. And I think transparency is really about explaining to clients what they pay for and what they do not pay for. Mm-hmm. And secondly, transparency is also about being honest with your client. For example, if you have a problem, for example, a bug in the app, and you're working to fix on it, tell clients that you have it, acknowledge it, and tell them by when you want to solve it. Give them the feeling that you're listening to problems they have, but also transparency in the way what you're working on in terms of roadmap. What are the key, engaging with customers in communication, what features do they demand, and then telling them honestly, yes, we're working on that, we're actually not working on that, what are our priorities. So it has a lot of aspects, and I think this is something that Fintechs like us have a new way of communicating to clients and being more honest and transparent in what we do.
Okay. Yeah. One person from the audience is actually asking whether you are working on cryptocurrencies, integrating cryptocurrencies into your app. Is that planned, and when? Or?
Coming back to transparency, to be honest, it is not on the short to mid-term roadmap. It is a question we get a lot from clients. But we are still working on other features that we want to implement first. And there are more things we want to do that are closer to a traditional bank offering than cryptocurrency, which is a bit more far from a traditional banking account. It's an interesting topic, but to be honest, I don't think we will have it this or the next year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe one more question before we move on to the next topic block. How much data and AI are you already using for the service?
Very little, almost down to the minimum that is required. I'm not an expert in kind of developing our apps, but I know that we have an approach that we only want to use the services and kind of, plugins and stuff that you need to build your app, which are required to kind of offer the functionality that we have. But we are not getting data on top of that excessively in order to either sell or do stuff with it. So we will never sell client data. All the data is stored and used here in Switzerland only. And this is really something we believe. We don't want to kind of build a business case around, data kind of gathering and usage. Yeah.
Okay, maybe a stupid question from me, but like from a technical point of view, how do you build a banking app? I mean, not go in too much into details, but what's required, what technologies you need, how does it work? Is it very complex or?
Good question. as far as I understand. I mean, as a product officer, I do, but I'm not a developer. There's different ways how you can do it. What's important to understand in our setup is we are not a bank and we do not have a banking license. For that, we work with a partner bank. So the partner bank holds the accounts of our customers. We have built kind of the front end, kind of the mobile banking application through which customers access the accounts. So the setup that we have is different to traditional banks that are building apps based on their own infrastructure. But typically, I mean, what you always need, you need a front end, you need a back end, you need connectivity to banking infrastructure, you need connectivity to third parties which provide solutions. Like in our case, we really focus on the front end. We do not have kind of the banking infrastructure, but we, for example, also do not do the onboarding ourselves. For that, we work with a third party who's kind of offering, we have integrated into the app. So we work with a lot of partners, technology-wise, banking partners, product partners, and we kind of manage the whole ecosystem in that. So it's a different setup than traditional banks would have if they build their own banking application.
So it's a rather lean setup. Huh?
It's a very lean setup, yes. And a lot of, parties that are specialized in what they do, and we put that together in a perfect puzzle.
Okay. The next, field I would like to go in is the importance of Zurich as a location for your company. I mean, Zurich has been an important banking and insurance hub for decades, and on the other hand, it's also known for its high-tech companies. So that's probably why it's really a great place for fintech companies to be. How does Neon profit from being in this ecosystem of fintechs?
I mean, we do a lot. We are based in Zurich. We started the company here, and we actually also launched the product in the city of Zurich, which was very beneficial for us in the sense, number one, it's the largest city population-wise, so you can kind of gain a lot of customers and you can reach out to a lot of customers on a very kind of condensed space, which is definitely helpful if you do marketing activities. Secondly, as you said, Zurich is the hub of two of major Swiss banks, international banks, Credit Suisse and UBS, and also many other banks. So a lot of kind of financial affinity already of people in Zurich. And Zurich is a very, international city, very open-minded. We have strong universities, people that travel a lot. So I have a feeling that people in Zurich are very likely looking for solutions, innovative solutions, looking what happens abroad, questioning why these solutions are not available in Switzerland and in Zurich. And there's a very intense startup community, both around the universities, but also the large corporations that are sitting here in Zurich.
Do you engage with other startups from the area?
Yes, a lot actually. As mentioned before, we are looking always for products in the market that we can offer to our clients because we would even buy them ourselves. We are working with robo-advisor startups. We are working with an insurance company. We are talking to others in other areas, being it credit, mortgages, or other stuff. And there are a lot of companies with great ideas, and it's very interesting. Especially in my previous role as product officer, I had a lot of discussions and meetings with a lot of innovative solutions that they wanted to bring to the market.
I see. Yeah. You also mentioned the universities. Do you cooperate with them directly, or is it rather the talent that you are aiming for? What role do universities and other schools in Zurich and Switzerland play for Neon?
Number one is certainly the talent. Most of the people in our company are actually from Zurich, from different kind of directions. We have marketing, we have communications, we have customer care, people in development, finance, and they all have their background in universities or schools of Zurich. So that's definitely a big aspect. And secondly, I mean, we are in discussion with different universities, not with universities, but actually with teachers or kind of professors, which invite us to discuss with students about some specific topics or to work with them together on specific projects. So there is a lot of engagement, which is very interesting because it gives you a fresh view from the outside.
What kind of talent does a company like Neon hire or recruit?
I think number one, for a startup in general, you always look for people that are not only good at what they do, but that can also work in a startup environment. So you have to be very flexible, very independent. You have to, stand in for your own opinion. You have to like to work remotely and in a very, very quickly changing environment, which of course requires also some sort of intellectual flexibility and capability. And then secondly, we look for specific talent in the areas I described, people that are good at communicating or doing marketing, but we also need people that have, for example, banking experience and understand the banking industry, the credit card industry, and for that Zurich is, in our case, well positioned because you have a lot of banks and insurance companies in Zurich, so there's a big talent pool you could potentially fish from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, besides talent and customers, startups often look for capital. How does the investor scene look like in Zurich, and how does it look for Neon on this front?
We've made very good experience. For me at least, it's the first startup I'm working on growing with. A majority of our investors actually come from Zurich, both private people, kind of angel investors, but also VC funds and institutions which have invested in Neon. So has been great experience for us. There are a lot of investors. The community also talks to each other. So every time there's new ideas, you can see that word of mouth is going out. And when you pitch ideas to some companies or some investors, they might have already heard of it. So that shows that really the community talks to each other and really tries to support interesting and valuable startups. And it has been great so far. Okay,
cool. That's very interesting. One thing that goes through my mind, you mentioned the atmosphere in Zurich, like it seems to be an open atmosphere. Can you elaborate a bit here? Is there a specific business atmosphere that you appreciate in Zurich?
Before working at a startup, I also worked at the consultancy companies, also in Zurich. So it means that I work with many different corporations. And no matter where I worked, being it traditional companies or more kind of newer companies, I think the working spirit is great. Zurich, in my view, offers a great mix of, a lot of companies giving you job opportunities, but also recreational, cultural, and other activities that you can engage in. So people that work in Zurich really have the chance to work hard, but also, get a lot of relaxation over the weekends and on days and nights. So I find it very positive. You have a strong community of students, you have a strong community of companies, and that mixes together. And now looking beyond our company, I really feel that it's a great working culture.
Okay, cool, thank you. So we have a little time for a couple of more questions, and I see there are a lot. So one is again about customer data. Since you depend a lot on third-party providers, how can you make sure these data are treated with the most confidentiality?
Number one, we work with a bank. The bank is regulated by the Financial Markets Authority, is under very strong regulation like any other Swiss bank. So all the banking data actually sits with the bank and is very well protected, which kind of forces us and everyone else working with the bank to adhere to the same standards in the market. So that's the first one. And secondly, if we use, as I can see, kind of identity verification partners, for example, there's very strong contracts in place that exactly describe which data and for how long they can store it and by when they have to get rid of it and what they can do with the data. And for example, in the identification space, they can only use the data to identify clients and to fulfill kind of the service they offer, but they cannot use it for any other purposes. And that's not just the case for us, but almost every bank that is now starting to implement, for example, digital onboarding, works either on themselves or with identification partners, and all of them have to adhere to the same standards. They are all regulated by the Financial Markets Authority as well.
Okay. Your partner bank, by the way, is Hypothekarbank Lenzburg, because that's another question that I just replied to on your behalf. One person wants to know if you have any ambitions to develop an investment banking product.
Good question, and that comes back to what I said before about integrating third-party products into our app. integrating or building your own investment product is quite complex from a technological point of view, and especially in the setup that we are in. It's a topic that we frequently discuss. How far do we want to either build and fully integrate services into our app, and how far we just want to kind of work with third-party providers, but more kind of in a recommendation model, not in the way that we offer it ourselves. So it's not something that we have kind of fully determined yet. For the moment, we're still figuring out what our clients are looking for. Is it more investment products? Is it more insurance products? Is it more credit products? And the more information we have and the more experience we get with our clients, the better we will be able to determine if we really want to build something ourselves, or if we want to stick to kind of a model where we work with third-party providers.
Okay. So I'm taking one last question from the audience. How can you compete with other digital banks that offer accounts to a lot of countries and not only in Switzerland? I imagine they have in mind that you can have like a different accounts in different currencies, like for example in Revolut, I assume.
Yes, or maybe they're even talking to international players like N26 Revolut that not only have offer accounts in Switzerland but also abroad. But both questions are valid. Firstly, we really offer all the functionality that you need to have to manage your finances in Switzerland. There's a lot of stuff that only exists in Switzerland. For example, receiving electronic bills via e-bill. The Swiss payments infrastructure is specific in the way that, for example, you get your bills with a new QR format from merchants, something that in other countries is handled differently. So if you really want to do your finances 100% with only one startup, not startup, but fintech, you need to look for one which can basically fulfill your Swiss needs. Now, if you look at solutions where you can have different accounts in different currencies, that's still really something we're talking about internally as well. If we want to offer that and by when we want to offer it, a decision is not yet taken, but we fully understand that there's a proportion in Switzerland of people that really want to have accounts, for example, in euros or US dollars. What I can say for now is we have integrated TransferWise as the solution provider, and with that, at least you can make international payments in many currencies at a very, very cheap price, but not yet we can offer kind of having your own accounts in different currencies.
Okay, cool. Well, our half hour is soon over, so I have to cut short the Q&A question. I think there are only a few questions that we couldn't answer during the show, but we will reach out to you and provide you with the answers you were looking for. One last question to Patric: when and what will we hear next from Neon?
I cannot tell you what you will hear. That's still confidential, but I can tell you that for sure it will be by end of this year.
Okay. Excited. Well, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you too.
You did a great job providing very valuable insights into your success story, but also into the very interesting world of digital banks, and also, of course, to Greater Zurich and Switzerland as a location of choice for successful startups. Many thanks.
Thanks.
I'd like to thank one more time to Seer Vision, our production partner, an a startup that produces AI-assisted camera operation. Thanks a lot. And most importantly, I would like to say thank you, our audience, for your interest in the Greater Zurich area and for taking the time today. Stay tuned. My next talk guest is Annalisa Martin-Niedecken. She's the co-founder of Sphery, a startup that specializes in game-based, personalized and multimedia training concepts and technologies. Something very different, but also very exciting, I promise. We will send you the date via email. So thanks again and have a great day. Goodbye.